Aloha, I'm Eva Andrade. I'm the president and CEO of Hawaii Family Forum. And in 2020, Hawaii went to an all-voting mailing system. So let's chat about that. Aloha, everybody. I'm really pleased to continue the discussion on voting and elections in Hawaii. And it's really an honor for me to have Duke Aiona with me today. We did have Elwin Ahu on a few episodes ago, and I think we want to continue that discussion about elections in Hawaii because we're very different, as we always talk about in Hawaii, aren't we, Duke? But before we start, why don't you introduce yourself for those that may not know you,
Sure.
although I believe everybody knows, Duke.
No.
Introduce yourself
Thank
to
you.
our viewers.
First of all, thanks, Eva, for allowing me this opportunity to discuss a topic that I think is very dear and near to, should be dear and near to all of us. My real name is James Aiona. My nickname is Duke, as you all know. We don't have to get into that. But I've just been blessed to have the opportunity to serve our Lord in various capacities. And most people remember me for being the lieutenant governor from 2002 to 2010. But prior to that, I was a circuit court judge for about 7 years. And then I was a district family court judge for about 6 years, both as a part-time judge and a full-time judge. And so most of my my professional career has been in the legal profession. I am still a licensed attorney practicing in the state of Hawaii. And so I've been a licensed attorney now for almost 30 years. And so that's my profession. That's who I am. Most proud of this, though. Most proud of the fact that I've been married to the same woman. I should say she's endured me for nearly 40 years. Nearly 40 years. We're celebrating our 39th anniversary. In fact, this Saturday, it's this Saturday. And then, of course, 4 great children, but now blessed with 6 grandchildren, and that's the joy of my life right now. And that's where I spend most of my time.
Well, before we move on, though, because this is a local episode, why don't you tell everybody what school you in grad?
Well, there's only one school that matters. That's, of course...
I don't know.
I've been an honor student. Anyway, Slopes of Kalaipahaku, absolutely. I'm a crusader, a proud crusader. And to all the men of Kalaipahaku who are enduring this whole episode right now, you're our future leaders.
Yeah, and I was in a sister school. For those of you that don't know, I went to a Star of the Sea High School, so right up the road.
I thought it was Sacred Hearts.
No, don't. Oh, please, don't. That's a whole nother show.
That's like saying I went to Damien. Well, no.
Oh, stop.
My son teaches at Damien. Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So actually, this rivalry is a good way to jump into this idea of how we do
Absolutely.
elections in Hawaii. But let's paint a little bit of a picture for our viewers. Let's go back to when you were our lieutenant governor, and that was from 2002 to 2010.
Correct.
And walk us through that a little bit, Duke, because during that time we had the most Republicans in both the House and Senate that had been in history. So share with us a little bit about those years.
Yeah, there's various reasons why I ran for office, but most importantly why Governor Lingo ran for office. And one of the reasons Governor Lingo ran for office was because she was all about, a two-party system. And she worked tirelessly prior to getting elected in 2002 to build that. And so I think if you'll note the numbers, we had one of our highest numbers in the state legislature for both the House and the Senate prior to her getting elected. And that's because she was a state party chair for the Republican Party. She truly believes in a two-party system. She still does believe in a two-party system. And likewise, that was one of the reasons why I ran also. So when we were in office, we had the luxury, I guess you could say the luxury of having, I believe the year before it was 19 Republicans in the House of Representatives. As you know, there's 51 state reps, and we had 19.
And what a lot of people don't know is with 19 Republicans, you can stop bad legislation from moving forward, and you can promote good legislation.
Exactly.
So it's a really good place to be, even if the number, there are 51 total, right?
That was the number. And so we felt good going in. Of course, we did. Governor Lingo got a lot done. She doesn't get as much credit as she should get for what she's done. And so, unfortunately, the numbers, went down. Were reduced a little after that. So we went below that 19, and that kind of hurt a little bit, but still not. I got to tell you, when you're in the executive branch, I don't care what party you're in. In Hawaii, we have one of the most powerful executive branches in the country. And all you got to do is look at the legislation that's been passed, and you'll know. Just recently, they just passed this new bill, went over my radar. I don't know about your radar, but this is in regards to building maintenance for the schools as far as structures. And they're creating a new whole agency to take care of that, bypassing a lot of the entitlements that need to be get, in other words, the permits, etc. And so who's appointing that agency? The governor of the state of Hawaii, and appointing the chair.
See, you make a good point. I think people forget sometimes when they're casting their vote that these people that they're voting into office are going to keep on voting. So once they get into that position, they're going to take what they believe and turn it into law. And so we really have to talk about the character of these people we're
Right.
electing. Now, why do you think that during this time there were more Republicans elected? I mean, what's the difference? Because we have good Republicans that run now
Yeah.
that don't get elected.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I think what it was, Governor Lingo did a great job as a chair in getting, not saying that the past chairs or the present chairs and the chairs after her didn't do their utmost to get candidates to run, but I think she did a great job in getting, just candidates out there, raised the profile a little bit more. And I think also it was the times. If you recall, in that era, 2002, 2001, 1998, a lot of the representatives, both in the House as well as in the City Council, even though we have a nonpartisan City Council, and let's not get into this one, but anyway, they're nonpartisan. Most of them profess, not profess, but they come out and identify themselves as Democrats, right? So at that point in time, a lot of them were getting in trouble. They were getting arrested and convicted. I won't get into the names and but that's what happened. So I think there was that the environment was just right. People were kind of fed up with that. And of course, we parlayed that into getting elected.
So
and of course, talking about balance, balance.
So what happened? Because if you've
Yeah.
got all of this and then all of a sudden it's all brought to the surface and then people are changing their votes, why now have we digressed?
Well, politics is politics, okay? In Hawaii, they don't play fair. I can tell you that right now. Well, I should say they don't play fair. They play rough. And and some of it is not fair, at least from my perspective. And so what happened was, if you recall, we had the Great Recession of 2008. And so with that, the governor had to make some decisions that were not very popular. And obviously, it hurt some people in their pocketbooks, right? And I ran in 2010, and of course, what the Democrats did was just say everything was a result of me, as if that was not that I'm backing away from that administration,
Right.
but just saying that was all on me, and we were going to get more of the same. In reality, they didn't. I guess we didn't do a good enough job of getting the message out there that it was we did a good job in light of the circumstances, sort of like what's happening right now, except right now it's a little bit more magnified.
Well, I had to smile because I know that the mayor has reached out to the Christian leaders, I want to meet with you guys and explain to you about the lockdowns, but you did that when you were LG. I remember you having pastors' meetings in your office because you felt like that pastors needed to have a place to bring. So this wasn't something that was created in this administration. It was something you did yourself.
And I think I'm trying to be nice to the current mayor. I think his outreach to the Christian community, or just people of faith, maybe, let's just put it that way, is because of what's happening across the country in regards to the amount of lawsuits that are being filed and what the courts have been ruling in regards to the lockdown and, not being able to practice your faith.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the reason why he's reaching out. It's not for any other reason. I mean, we all know he's a progressive liberal, and his social policies in no way align with ours. His stance on life, his stance on marriage, his stance on a lot of different things are nowhere near the values that we have.
Well, I
so
think
it's to me, I'm sorry, but that's just my perspective and why he's reaching out.
Well, it's a good reminder that when we're casting our vote, that we really should be taking time to research these people that we're voting for, because they may agree with us on one issue, but maybe there's other issues that they don't. So we need to know more about what they're going to do.
Yes.
But I want to stay on this topic of being a faith-based person in office, because I think that our viewers need to understand that that's not an easy thing for you to have and wear your faith and be in a public office. You got attacked horrendously during your run for governor. You want to share a little bit about that?
Well, I don't regret anything. I mean, I stand for what I stand for, and I think that's, if that hurts me, well, it hurts me. If it helps me,
so are you the author of the true fake news?
No, I'm not. But all I'm saying is that, I think that's what's lacking right now. is, candidates, or I should say, people who run for office right now don't stand on their principles. They don't stand on what they believe in. And why shouldn't you? And I think that's where I'm seeing a lot of, and this is where I'm getting a little bit, I should say, discouraged in regards to what's happening now. I see a lot of people running away from their principles and their values, out of fear. Let's just take this current president. A lot of people in Hawaii just don't like this president personally, and I don't know why. They never met the guy, but they don't like him. So a lot of people who do like him, though, are not coming out publicly and saying, well, I kind of agree with some of the things that this president is doing, and some of the results that we're getting from him, right? I haven't heard any of our major news networks ever once say, well, President Trump today did this, and that's good for the people of America. Have you ever heard? I've never heard that. Everything has been a result of Trump. I just heard Tommy Waters last night blame the president for the mistakes that the Department of Health made in Hawaii. I'm like, wow, really, Tommy? And then, of course, he never says it's us, the leaders, except in the end, he does say, well, people just don't trust us. But of course, he says that tongue in cheek because he's just a city council member, I guess, right? And everything is on the state and everything is on the administration in the city and county of Honolulu. And that's what that was all about, right? So, so being a man of faith, I think, is not a disadvantage, Igor. I look at it as being an advantage because what my principles are up front. You know what my values are up front. And I think most people will agree with my values and my principles. But unfortunately, we do have a political machine, which I think is the driving force in Hawaii politics, unfortunately.
So unfortunately, we have to take a break. We'll be back shortly, but in the meantime, think about that for a minute, bringing your faith into politics, because that's what we're discussing today. We'll see you in a bit. Aloha, I'm Eva Andrade. I'm the president of Hawaii Family Forum, and we've been serving Hawaii's faith-based community since 1998. What we do is we provide research and education to the faith-based community to help them understand what's happening at the state capitol and what's happening on the issues that affect the families here in Hawaii. If you would like more information, please visit us on the web. But in the meantime, know that Micah 6:8 says that the Lord requires of us to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God. And we can help you do that, not only to raise your voice the way that the Lord calls us to raise our voice, but to understand the issues on a scriptural basis. And we'll tell you how you can learn more about what's affecting Hawaii's families. Mahalo. Welcome back. We're glad you could join us today as we continue this discussion with Duke Aiona and elections in Hawaii. Duke, you know that we've changed how we do elections in Hawaii, whereas before people really looked forward to going to the polls, standing in line, coming home and saying, I voted. That is not happening anymore because now they're mailing ballots to everybody. I'd like to get your thoughts on the new system.
Well, if you listen to some, they'll say it was a great success. We increased voter turnout in the primary, and it was. Increased, I think we had a little over 50%. Normally we have like about
30,
40 around there.
Yeah.
And so, I guess you can say we had an increase. But it's still dismal, the fact that we had 50%. But one of the things that's troubling, even I've always said this when they first, I guess you could say, floated this idea about an all-male election, and that is, I just don't understand how you can I guess have some credibility in regards to making sure that the votes are correctly tallied, for one, that you can match all signatures, 2, 3, that people are not voting for other people in the same household, right? And 4, that we have a great voter list. In other words, that it's purged. In other words, it's cleansed. So in other words, we get out the people who have passed away. We get out the people who have moved away, right? We get out the people who, for whatever reason, just don't want to vote. How well has that been done? And I haven't heard I haven't read, I haven't heard, I haven't seen any reports that give us an indication about that. And especially after this election, I still don't know how many spoiled ballots we had. I don't know if you do.
Not off the top of my head, but I do know that in my office, I've received a lot of phone calls and emails from people that were concerned about putting a signature, a valid signature, in the mail. right? Because it's on the outside of the envelope. So when it's going through the process, people are really worried
Correct.
about that, right? You can take
Correct.
a picture of somebody's,
Correct.
and now I guess in this day and age, as you know, it's very easy to steal someone's identity. So
Right.
people are very concerned about that. You have the people that feel like if I drive to these locations and drop off my ballot, then I have a better chance of it getting tallied. But it brings up your point
Right.
that how do we know though?
Right.
How do we really, really know? Lost ballots.
Right.
I also got phone calls from people saying that they received multiple ballots. I got
I did hear that also.
I got phone calls from people saying that they got ballots for adult children that had moved away.
Right.
And so
I've heard that
there
too.
is some work that needs to be done through the Office of Elections to
Right.
clean up the rolls.
And I haven't heard that. And so, this might be a tangent, but I think it's related. So, President Trump has been just basically blasted by the Democrats in regards to his resistance to, some of these states just ad hoc right now because of the pandemic of going to an all-male system, right?
Right.
And they're saying, well, that's because he's just, anyway, it's Trump. So that's the reason why. But think about it. Think about it. That's not the reason why he's saying he has a lot of questions about it. Look how long it took us to just basically, one, pass this law. And then secondly, to get this system to something that was, and even the Democrats, there's a lot of Democrats out there that are skeptical about that. I'm talking about here in Hawaii.
Right.
But they won't say it publicly, but they are skeptical because this system has a lot of, as we would say in Hawaii, pukas.
Yeah.
There's a lot of holes in it.
Yeah.
And that's what the president's upset about. So you're having these states that have never had this volume. Now they're going to mail out ballots, as he says, to everybody who's on the voter rolls.
Right. And I think that, as Christians, we have to be very mindful of our vote. So, we can't be afraid of this process because it is what it is. This is where we're at today. But I do think, Duke, that we need to encourage people to make sure that they're voting, right?
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
So you
yes.
get your ballot. Make sure that you actually take time. You research your candidates. Go to hawaiifamilyforum.org and we have a voter guide for the general election that will be able to tell you some. I do know, Duke, and you know this. Not all the candidates are going to respond to the survey, but the point is we're going to give people the links. It'll be an interactive voter guide, so they'll be able to link. So you don't respond, Duke, and you're a candidate, they'll go right to your campaign website and read more about you.
Well, and the fact that you're not responding should say something to you as a voter, right?
And we're going to be providing phone numbers as well, and we really encourage people, call the candidate. If they didn't respond to the survey and they get thousands of phone calls, I guarantee you the next time they get the questions, maybe it'll be easier to fill out the survey.
And that's one of the reasons why a lot of candidates don't vote.
Right.
I mean, don't respond.
Right.
Because they feel nobody's looking at these questionnaires.
Right.
And this is a little tough issue here. I don't really want to respond to this publicly, so they don't respond.
Well, and we do it because we hear from the community, I don't know how to vote. I don't know these candidates. I don't know much about them. And so we're trying to provide a tool for people to vote in a good way. But Duke, let's stay on this for a moment because I'm really concerned about this. If you have a group of people that are scared to vote because of the security and do they know their vote is not going to be counted, is that going to hurt?
Well, that's what we don't know, right? We just don't know that. But we know it can work in the other way. They call it ballot harvesting, where you'll go into a group of like a senior home, right? So I'm working for so and so, or I'm working for some organization, whatever it might be, and I go in there and here's all these seniors, right, who have their ballots, and they don't have the time, or they don't have the passion, or they don't have the energy, and you come in and you say, hey, I'll take care of it for you, Auntie. No problem, okay? And they say, well, first of all, you obviously massage them a little bit, build up a little trust with them, and they ask you for your input, right? Okay? And then I'll even mail it for you, Auntie. In fact, I'll walk it down. I won't even mail it. I'll take it down to the election office, and therefore guarantee your vote's going to be counted.
So what do you say?
A lot of that happens.
So what do you say to the other side who says, yeah, but churches are doing that? You got pastors saying, everybody bring your ballots in and we'll all vote together. So can it go both ways?
Well, I guess it can. I guess it can.
But
and shouldn't that be a concern for everybody?
It should, and I think that you know how everybody's calling on each other, right, with this wearing the mask, right? Oh, I'll report you because you're not wearing your mask. Well, maybe we need to be very mindful of what's happening on these ballots.
Yeah.
And maybe
absolutely.
we do have to start calling things that don't look right or seem right. If you feel like your unions are pressuring you, right? And I'm not trying to say anything bad about unions, so I don't want to get any nasty, but you know, people feel pressured, right? You have your ballot in front of you and your boss is walking over there, is there this subtle pressure, right? Do you think that that's happening?
Oh, obviously, yes. Yeah, I know it's happening.
Okay, Duke said that,
I know
right?
it's
So you
happening.
can send your emails to Duke.
And we know it's happening. I can tell you that right now. I've heard it from people who are in different organizations, whether it be a labor union or whether it be in even an office or whatever it might be, it's happening. But the bottom line is this. The bottom line is, yes, we want people to vote. We want them to vote intelligently,
Right.
obviously, right? And intelligently doesn't mean you just look at one website, you read the headlines, and you think you know it all.
Or get from your friends or
Right.
Facebook,
So
right?
go
Yeah.
exactly. So to me, that you have to just look at various sources and look at the source. Really look at the source and what it stands for.
One of the things I like to tell young adults, right, is everybody's talking points now. You notice that, right?
Yep.
Whether they're a Trump supporter or a
Right.
Biden supporter, there's talking points they're using. So when somebody comes to me with a talking point, I ask them to flesh it out. Tell me what that means to you. How are you going to make that work, right? I want my college education paid for, right? Sounds great,
Oh, yeah.
for everybody who went to college,
Absolutely.
it wouldn't be great to do this, but have them talk it through. Okay, well, college still costs money, right? There's still books, there's still professors, right, that have to be paid. So if you're not paying for it, who is paying for it? Somebody's paying for it. So is it going to come out of taxes? If you get young adults to start thinking through the process, I think a lot of times they'll take a step back and say, oh, I didn't really think about it that way. So, one of what we encourage you to do is think outside of talking points. So if somebody's giving you talking points, let's flesh it out. So give some advice, Duke, to somebody who might be watching this right now who, honestly, I think most people know who they're going to vote for already. But what about that person that maybe doesn't know? Give some advice to
you
them.
just mentioned it. I mean, you said, do the research. Look at the various websites. Probe. In other words, just don't be, satisfied with the response or maybe just simple questions. Really look into, what it's all about. But I think most importantly, here's my advice to everybody is, what you believe in. You know what you stand for. You know what our issues are in this community, whether it's cost of living, whatever it might be, whatever you believe it is. Look at the candidate that truly stands with you on that and that you truly believe will move forward and will be representative of you. I got to tell you, and I'll say it right now, I think Mazie Hirono needs to be ousted from office because she does not represent the people of Hawaii. She represents the people who hate Donald Trump.
She's not on the ballot this time.
And nothing
so-
more. And nothing more. That's an example. Now, that's somebody I believe that should not be a representative. You're not representing. I know for a fact, if I was to go to Mazie Hirono and tell her, look, I really support this bill that Donald Trump is also supporting, she would not give me an ear. I wouldn't even get an appointment. So you need to look at the principles and the values and what you believe in and make sure that the candidate you're voting for, because I agree. Not every election you have two candidates, but there are a lot in which you have two candidates. And a lot of times people in Hawaii will dismiss it simply because they have an R or an L or whatever it may be behind their name. It's not a D.
Yeah.
And this is why you have one of the candidates in the mayoral candidate, and you just saw his latest commercial. He leads it off with the Democrat, Keith Amamiya. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan race. But he's starting it off with why? Because in Hawaii, and when I mentioned it earlier about a political machine that we have in Hawaii, that's really hard to overcome. Being a man of faith is maybe an obstacle, but this is a mountain. I can't tell you how high that mountain is, but it's pretty high to overcome. But it can be done, and I believe that we are seeing more of the voters now are seeing that, because let's be honest. They're talking about, we need a new economy, right? We need a new economy. We've been relying on tourism for too long. Well, who's been in control and developing policies in regards to our economy since statehood? It's not the Republicans, it's the Democrats. But we keep electing them.
I think people in the community agree with you because the two mayoral candidates right now are both non-political type people, right?
No, but that's what I'm saying. There is one, Keith Amamiya. He says the Democrats. So, okay. That's my plug in regards to that. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm saying that's the kind of stuff you look at. You look at it. It's a nonpartisan race. You got one of the candidates saying, "I'm the Democrat," and he's proud to say it. He'll tell you why. And look who's endorsing that person. And look at the other person also. What does he call himself? And who's endorsing him? And where does he stand on the various issues?
Right.
One of the big issues in Honolulu is what? The rail.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Somehow they got lost because of everything that's going on right now, right? But look at the two candidates in regards to, and how much of an issue is that with you?
Well, I think that's
know?
a good way to look at it, Duke. So if you're considering the candidates, you want to say on the issue of rail. How is this going to affect me, and how is this person going to make this happen for me? I think that's a good way, because you'll find your candidate through that process,
Exactly.
right? The other thing that we want to encourage you to do is stay plugged in to your elected officials. Once the election is over, your kuleana is not POW, because now you have to have that relationship with your legislator, because when you were lieutenant governor, didn't it mean something to you when the community would come in?
Absolutely. And I reached out to the community also, and that's another example of, are they truly representatives of you, if they're reaching out or not reaching out, right? Because a lot of times what happens is, incumbency, I think once they are elected, that's it, game's over. And let's just look at the history of our representatives, and to a certain extent, that's true.
Yep.
We've got guys in there that have been in there forever, or whenever they feel, okay, I'm going to move on to the next office, or
That's
whatever
right.
it might be, right?
That's right. So as we end today, here's a couple of things for you to think about. Number one, maybe the Lord is moving you to run for office. And if that's the case, take it to prayer, talk to your pastor, talk to your friends. It's not an easy process,
No.
as Duke shared, but it may be something the Lord's calling you to do. Number two, make sure you're registered to vote. The other thing that you want to make sure you do is when you get that ballot, make sure that you vote. And if you're concerned about mailing it, then take it to one of the drop-off centers and drop it off. But make sure you do it. And then make sure all your friends and family do the same, because this is us. Hawaii is us. Hawaii is you and me, and it's what God called us to do. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Duke,
Eva.
for
Appreciate
being
it.
here today. And we will see you next time. If you liked today's video, make sure that you like it, that you share it with your friends, that you subscribe, and then hit that notification button so you'll know every time we upload a new video. Mahalo, everybody.